Good afternoon. My name is Miriam Dominguez, and for the purpose of this presentation, I decided to do some research on my family's homeland, Cuba. Cuba is a country located in the West Indies and is the largest single island of the archipelago. It is located just south of the Tropic of Cancer, where the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean Sea all intersect. Because it is located on the southwest of the North Atlantic high atmospheric pressure zone, its climate is influenced by northeast trade winds during their winters and east-northeast winds in the summer, with the warm wind currents that form the Gulf Stream having moderate influence along the coasts. Their annual average temperature is 79 degrees Fahrenheit, with little variation between January, their coolest month, which averages at 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and August, their warmest month, which averages at 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Cuba has a lush tropical plant life, which includes thousands of flowering plant species. Much of the original vegetation, however, has been replaced by crops like sugarcane, coffee, and rice, made possible by the wide-scale destruction of their forests. Thankfully, the government has replanted many areas since the 1960s, and forests actually cover about 1/4 of the country's surface area. Cuba is a multicultural, largely urban nation, although it has one major city known as Havana or La Habana. To give a brief summary of this beautiful island's history, we have to go back to 1492, when Christopher Columbus first arrived to Cuba and claimed the country for Spain, resulting in Cuba becoming a mainly Spanish-speaking country. Spain remained in control of Cuba until 1898, when it was defeated by the United States in the Spanish-American War. Although Cuba gained its independence at this time, it still remained largely overshadowed by the United States for some time to come. This remained so until New Year's Day, January 1st, 1959, when Fidel Castro led revolutionary forces to overthrow the government of dictator Fulgencio Batista. 2 years afterwards, Castro proclaimed the Marxist-Leninist nature of the revolution. Cuba then became economically isolated from its northern neighbors and began developing closer links to the Soviet Union. However, the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s only isolated Cuba further, beginning what Cubans call el periodo especial, or the special period, which was known as a time of widespread shortages and financial instability. By the start of the 21st century, Cuba had loosened some of its rather restrictive social and economic policies, but the United States would continue its decades-long economic embargo against the Castro regime, even though a December 2014 announcement of the resumption of diplomatic relations between the two countries held promise of the embargo's removal. In addition, Cuba is a country which began its economic rise by entering in stock raising and food production, and in the 17th century, tobacco became an important crop to the economic wealth of Cuba. In the 18th century, sugarcane became a major industry of Cuba. Later on in the late 1800s, Cuba faced threats of invasions and annexation by the United States. José Martí organized a rebellion that was successful and allowed Cubans to gain their sovereignty and avoid American intervention. The Cuban economy grew over time and was close to becoming one of the world's greatest economies, until the rise of communism took over and slowed it down. The New York Times wrote an article discussing how to fix the crisis that is the Cuban economy. Cuban economy expert Carmelo Mesa Lago explains that the way to get out of Cuba's failed economic model is to increase agricultural production that will allow farmers to sell their products to anyone at any prices set by supply and demand. The author also claims that major foreign investments need to be made into Cuba to strengthen their economy. Cuba would have needed to vamp up their export operations in order to build their GDP. Life in Cuba is thus challenging, given their limited access to food, transportation, power, and other basic necessities. Even so, Cubans show a fierce pride in their revolutionary society, one not seen in any other country in Latin America. Aside from the challenges they face, Cuba has some systems, like their healthcare system, that are highly recognized around the world. The Cuban healthcare system is actually considered one of Fidel Castro's greatest achievements, but the true extent of its success is still highly debatable. Cuba's healthcare system rose from its revolutionary socialist beliefs, and they consider healthcare a basic right for all of its citizens. Cuba has a doctor-to-patient ratio of 1 to 150, surpassing many developed countries, and their medical approach is one which focuses heavily on preventative care rather than diagnostic measures, offering simple checkups for complex issues with no charge. Dental care and home visits are also included and covered by their system. Because there are such simplistic approaches and so many possible medical emergencies to handle, Cuban doctors are expected to do a lot with the little they are given. In fact, most Cuban doctors say that they become medical professionals not for the money, but for the need to help others. Cuba does not have access to the latest diagnostic technologies, or even some of the basic equipment needed to treat patients, and as a result, patients are left waiting weeks for equipment to arrive and for them to be treated safely. Or they resort to bringing their own supplies like anesthesia, syringes, and sheets for the bed. The hospital infrastructures in Cuba also require serious attention. According to an article found on News, a lot of Cuba's hospitals and clinics are in dire need of reparations. Although Cuba's healthcare system has its flaws, it is one which offers many opportunities to foreigners interested in the medical field at a low cost, and allows for people to survive medical emergencies without having to worry about being thousands of dollars in debt. Furthermore, Cuba is a country rich in spirituality and religion. Only about 1/5 of Cubans consider themselves non-religious. Cuba's main religious movement is known as Santeria, an Afro-Caribbean religion composed of a blend of Catholic practices and African folk beliefs. The religion originated in Africa, but because of the slave trade, many Africans ended up in different parts of the Caribbean, including Puerto Rico and Cuba. The word Santeria comes from the Spanish language, indirectly translating to devotion to the saints, and is also commonly referred to as La Regla Lucumi. For centuries, this religion was practiced in secret and survived orally from one generation to the next. Following the revolution, Santeria was openly acknowledged but was criticized by the government for being folksy witchcraft. The current total number of adherents to Santeria is unknown, but it is estimated that anywhere between 1/2 and 7/10 of the population practice this religion. Even former President Fidel Castro was rumored to have practiced the religion. Additionally, Santeria followers believe that one God created the universe, and that the world is cared for by lesser divine beings, commonly referred to as orishas. Similar to ancient Greek gods, the orishas represent various forces of nature, along with human characteristics. The orisha Yemaya, for example, is the orisha of the sea and motherhood. The orishas are believed to perform miracles for adherents, and can also be blamed for unfortunate events. If an individual is constantly faced with bad luck, it is recommended that they appease their orisha to achieve harmony and balance in life. Strolling through the streets of Cuba, you may come across people wearing all white clothing, and chances are that these people are going through their Santeria initiation. People of all ages can choose to follow the religion, but they must first complete an initiation ritual that sets the follower on La Regla de Ocha, or the Way of the Orishas. Followers are required to stay inside at night for an entire year and only dress in white. No one is allowed to touch the follower aside from family members or lovers. Every follower is then assigned an orisha who will guide him or her through life. In conclusion, the story of this country started alongside the United States, when Christopher Columbus discovered the land, and since then has developed into a country filled with culture, love, and spirituality. Although its political and economic systems contain their flaws, Cuba is a country filled with hard-working citizens who resolve their troubles with minimal resources. No matter your opinion on the country, Cuba will continue to rise.